All right, so I modeled my stuff, I textured my stuff in Substance after I laid out the UVs, and then I exported out my textures and my models, and then brought them into Unreal. And now you can see there's my lamppost. Yep, so now they actually light stuff up, so you can see my shadows. And if I go by this crate, watch how strong my guy is. Boom. Barely touches it. Boom. So you see how strong he is. You don't mess with this guy. All right. So a couple things you can do inside Substance if you're adding some fanciness to your work. We've so far used smart materials. We drag it on there and then we pick which surface gets that smart material. That's pretty much all we've done, right? A little bit of painting here and there. So other stuff that you can do with this, let's say that I like the color of this thing, everything looks awesome, but I just want to add maybe just like a splash of blue in spots, okay, or red, that's blood, whatever, okay. So if I click on the new fill layer right here, the fill layer will fill it with a solid color. So again, I can just kind of go to whatever color I think my red bloody stuff would be. That's perfect. And then what I want to do is I want to limit where that's at. So we have smart materials, which are basically the entire material is set up for us. Then we also have something called smart masks. And the smart masks are what basically all the smart materials are composed of, or ways for us to isolate where different levels of detail are. So looking at these, you can read the name or you can just look at it. Something like this where it says cavity rust, this is going to give us basically like a white mask in areas where it's dipped in. So on the stairs here, like in these little creases, there might be this red color. So all I do is drag it onto here and drop it. And now you can see that there's red inside those areas. So for that looks stupid. I wouldn't use that, so I'm going to hit undo. Something else like concrete edges. If I drop that on there, it would only put red along the edges of it and give it kind of like this broken up pattern. Right? So instead of us going through and painting all that red, it automatically figures out where the edges are and automatically puts it right there. You can also do stuff like moss. So now I just have this kind of like more randomish pattern of red around here. Here's one that's rust. Okay, so just another way to kind of break up the surface a bit. And I can do this for multiple surfaces. So I can add one more fill layer. Let's say this one's going to be blue, like that. I'll add surface worn to it. And now I have that blue texture on top of it. Now all of these masks, you'll see that you get a mask thing here, and then you get this. This is what's actually controlling what the mask looks like. This is just a preview of what the mask is creating as far as texture goes. So if I click on this little controller, I can come into here and I can play with all of these different settings. You don't need to know what every single setting does. Just know that there's a bunch of settings here, and if you go over here and you just start playing with them, you'll really be able to adjust what that color looks like. So here, just by playing with this global balance, I'm able to shift how much of that blue is actually on there. So I can take this surface and make it look like maybe at one point it was concrete, and then somebody put red paint on it, and then somebody put blue paint on it, or something like that. For each one of these layers, I can also go down here to where my height is, and I can play with the height to, again, give it another level of dimension as to what this looks like. Okay. I can also come to my roughness and take the roughness up, even take the metallic up, and change what that looks like. Go to this one, do the same thing. Maybe the height is going to be bumped into this one. Maybe the roughness will be pulled up. Okay, just to help break up that surface a bit more, right? So then I would export my textures out just like we did before. So just so you can see that process again, export textures. Oops, let me close that for a second. By default, you're going to see it'll say Lambert 1 or Initial Shading Group 1, whatever it is. That gets pretty annoying quick. If you right-click on this, you can rename what it's going to call it. So in this case, stairs. So I right-clicked and hit Edit Name, called it stairs. And then when I export my textures out, it automatically will rename all my textures to be stairs, instead of Lambert 1. Because if we have 50 objects, they all say Lambert 1, all of our textures would say Lambert 1, Lambert 1, Lambert 1. I put this inside of my game trial, content, geometry. I make a textures folder that way it's a little bit more organized, and my textures would go inside there. I set my resolution to 4K, and then I export. When I get to Unreal, whoops, let go. Unreal is not letting me, there we go. When I get to Unreal, I imported the model, and I imported the textures, and then I went through and mapped them the same way we did the bat. So you can always reference back to that lecture of the bat one to see how to do that if you forgot. So to create this crate that has some dynamics to it, I drop my crate into the scene. I scroll down here. I need to hit Simulate Physics. And then what this is going to do is Unreal will actually figure out how big is this item in relationship to the scene, and it'll actually simulate some sort of physics in the scene. By default, its mass is 102 kilograms. Anyone know what that is in pounds? Me neither. All right. So if I move it like this, you can see it moves pretty easily. But then if I go to the other one, that's the crazy one. So on this one, I said override the mass and make it 2 kilograms, not 100 kilograms, and that's how it goes like super crazy. And if I set this to like 0.1, watch this. Boo! It's gone. He should play for the Lions, right? All right, so that's how you can make something dynamic inside Unreal. It would just fall. It falls automatically. It doesn't need to be on the ground. It'll just fall, and then you can mess around with it. To make the lights actually light stuff up, we have to do what's called creating a blueprint. So I kind of showed that before with the bat and making it turn on and turn off. So if I right-click and make a new blueprint, this is going to be an actor. And down here, I'm going to call this BP underscore lamp post underscore 2 because I already have one. Okay, then I double-click it. And then I can drag my lamppost in. So I've already imported my lamppost. I've already textured my lamppost. I'm just going to bring it into the scene. There it is. This is just a bit of maintenance on here. I'm going to set this to make a scene node and call this root. And then just drop this on the top one and say make new root. It gets rid of, there's a little sphere at the bottom. It gets rid of that sphere so you don't see that in your scene. So now what I need to do is I need to create a light. So I'm going to go to Add Components, and I'm going to add a point light or a spotlight. And this is very similar to what you would see inside Cinema or inside Maya or any other 3D program.
Is it the same hotkeys for rotating and moving?
Is it? Yes. Just naturally doing it. I'm not even paying attention to that. Yes, the same hotkeys for moving, rotating. Even yours moving around here is pretty similar. All right, so I have to make sure that it's not intersecting anything, so it can't be like through the top of this, otherwise it'll come through the top, right? So I want it to be below that. And so right now, that's how big that light would be. So I could hone it in, so if I want that to be smaller, I can go to my outer cone and shrink how big the cone is, so that way it's a little bit more focused on that area. I can take the intensity up, so whatever that is. All right, so then what I do is instead of dropping my regular lamppost in here, I drop my lamppost BP in here, and now I'll have that lamppost in my scene. Now, looking at the other ones that I already did and looking at the new one, you'll see that the new one does not have a light on the inside of it. So my spotlight goes down, but there's nothing illuminating the top of it. So every one of these has one shining down and another one that's just a light bulb basically inside. So I double-click my lamppost blueprint. I go to the viewport. I zoom out so I can see where that's at. There it is. And then I'm going to create another light, which is just a point light. And this, I'm just going to move right inside of that area. Okay, and again, you can play with the brightness, but that looks like it's pretty lit up. So I'm going to compile. I'm going to save. If you just save it, it doesn't save those changes and actually put it into the game, so you always want to compile it. And then you hit play, and then now you'll see that that other one now has a light. And then as I come closer, you can see the shadowing. Now, your scene is a bit brighter than mine because I dimmed mine down. Over here, this is your outliner, just like Maya has, where you can go through and you can say, okay, here's my lighting. They organized it for you. Here's my light source. I'm going to take my intensity down, right? So the lower that intensity is, the less light is going to be in the scene. There's also a skylight, and somewhere on here is intensity. There it is. I can take that down as well. There's also a sphere. There's an atmospheric fog you can also play with. We're not really seeing anything with that. Where's the other one? That sphere that's in the outside, he exists somewhere too. There it is. And intensity. Oh. Star sky. If I just delete it, I'm sure it'll go away. There it is. So I could delete that, or one of these options allows me to take the intensity down somewhere in here. Sun height. Come on. No, somewhere in there would, okay? We don't need to worry about that too much because that's all we get. So I can really see the shadows in here. Unreal does a pretty good job of creating these like realistic-ish looking shadows on our items in there, okay? So that's how you could make that function. Now I also have some stairs so that I can leave my world and then die. That's a spot you want to have stairs too, right? Exactly. Why are they there? So that I can get out. I don't like being stuck in this little box. All right. So to create the stairs and to make them work, I imported my stairs, and this is one thing about Unreal to kind of pay attention to, is that it doesn't always import things the direction you think that they should go. So this imported them sideways. So not a big deal. I just rotate it. And then remember, too, that we don't have a back and a bottom. And because we don't have a back and a bottom, Unreal automatically does not render that side of it. So we won't see anything at all from the other side. We only see this. We could turn it on, but then that's going to make it go slower, so we don't want that. So by default, your stairs will not be operational. So I'll show you what the default is going to look like. So I'm just going to put these here and put those there. And I'm going to double click it. And by default, the stairs are set to project default. Okay, so now I go play, and I can't get up the stairs. Okay, I can jump, and I'm like floating on the stairs, but it's not letting me actually climb the stairs. Okay, so every object inside Unreal that comes in has a collision group, or a collision area. So as I spin around and try to find my stairs, there they are. If I go up here to the top where it says collisions, I'm going to go to simple collisions, and this is what it's actually colliding with, okay? So it creates a very simple shape for us to collide so that if we were to hit it like we were simulating physics, that's the shape that we would be using. If I go simple off and I turn complex on, you can see this is much more divisions, right? So that's typically what we want to happen for this. So I would go over here to my collision complexity and say use complex as simple. And then I would save, then I would close, then I would play, and then I can go up the stairs. Now if your stairs are too pitched, they're too tall, then you guy can't get up the stairs. So something you may want to check. You can tweak it inside here, but the more I do this or that, the more it's going to stretch out that texture too. So it's not something we typically want to do in here, but something we could. So here, oh, he still goes nice.
Kind of a jitter thing.
It is a jittery, right? Yeah. Oh, you can almost make it to the top. All right, let's back up a bit. Let's take these stairs. Pull them back. There we go. Yeah, so now he has to actually jump up the stairs. So, multi-purpose, right? And then he can still die. Awesome. Okay. So, when you are finished with this assignment, you will have your 3 basic items inside of Unreal. You will turn in your sheet, and then you will turn in that whole folder again. P drive, there. Here's my gaming pipeline. So you'll turn in that whole gaming pipeline folder into the Z drive. Oops, that's not the Z drive.
Now, we already turned in the gaming pipeline folder when we turned in the seal bat, right?
Right. So you're going to turn in the new one, which is going to be simple props.
Okay, we're just going to rename it simple props? Or?
Yeah. Well, no. Just label it the same thing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, turn in simple props. There we go. Now all those are organized. Okay, so you just drop your whole folder inside the simple props, and then I will be able to go through your game, make sure that the items are inside the game. You don't need to make the light work. You don't need to make the stairs work. You don't need to make anything dynamic. I want to see that you've gone through the process of Maya, Substance, and then brought them into Unreal. Those other things are just extras. When we talked the first day about going beyond, those will be going beyond things. Okay? Questions? Yes, sir. That was it. I'm recording this. Yep. Yep, I'm recording this. Cool. Anything else?